Well, welcome everyone to Betting Weekly Live. It's Friday, the 13th of June. Let's hope it's not an unlucky betting day. We are here to preview the Club World Cup today, which starts tomorrow. A special edition here on Betting Weekly Live with myself, Steve Wyss, Lewis Jones, and a new addition to the Betting Weekly Live team, Nathan Joys. It's great to have you on board, Nathan. Hope you're doing really well today.
Yeah, pleasure to finally be here. It's been a long time coming for this Club World Cup, but we're here. Sad that it's on Friday the 13th, but we'll park that to one side before we get into the bets.
You're not a superstitious man, I'm sure, Nathan. And Lewis, welcome in as always. What's the best bit of advice you'll give Nathan joining the App Because We Win crew? Just give some winners out, right?
Well, that's the clues in the name, isn't it, Steve? It's winners all the way. Find the winners. Find the value's the key, isn't it? I mean, if you get the value, you're halfway there yourself. So as long as you're tipping something up with a bit of research and a bit of evidence behind it, we're all happy here, aren't we? So but it's going to be an interesting month, isn't it? I think it's going to be a bit different. I think the closer it gets to kick off, I think we're all on board with it really now. I think the teams seem to have picked their strongest sides, which is good, and they're taking it seriously, which doesn't really surprise considering the amount of money involved. So I think we're all set for a good month of action, and hopefully, we can find plenty of winners along the way.
I'm sensing you're a lot more excited about this Club World Cup than you were the other day.
Yeah, I've got stuck in the last few days, Steve, to be honest. So I've got sort of World Cup vibes. I think I'm getting the similar sort of feelings, and I think once we get to the quarterfinals, I think this tournament could really take off if the European teams dominate as expected, and we get some heavyweight clashes in those last 8. I think this tournament might be a lot hotter and a lot more popular than maybe what people are thinking at the moment. But we'll see as we go. But it's certainly going to be some great betting opportunities, I think, along the way to take advantage of.
I knew you'd be converted. These very exciting times. Welcoming everyone to Betting Weekly Live. Duncan Evans, good to see you. Cree as well. Asked a very good question about what level of rotation we are expecting. We will discuss that for sure. Ian Messina, good to see you. Steve from Lynn as well. Rick Haley, Daniel Lacani, and also Jason Galvin, who mentions River Plate there. We will be getting stuck into them. Before we start the preview for the Club World Cup, of course, some notable winners from yesterday. $73,000 on the Oilers money line, plus 125 against the Panthers. That's a great winner for someone there. $60,000 on Emma Raducanu, live on the money line. Probably Nigel Seeley. No, not usually. Nigel doesn't really usually back Raducanu, but that was a good winner against Shramkova, who was apparently awful. Plenty of US Open winners as well in the golf. Biggest winner was Ludwig Åberg to beat Hideki Matsuyama. Nearly $8,000 there at minus 130. And you can bet in play on the BetRivers website or app on the US Open golf. But yeah, Club World Cup, here we go. 32 teams. We have never before seen such a big group of the best teams in the world against each other in the middle of the summer. And this is where we are in terms of the outright. Every single team we've got on there, from Real Madrid through to Auckland City, who are a huge price. The actual latest odds, PSG have been well backed in, but now they've drifted back to plus 450 again. I actually gave 2 picks in the outright market on the Betting Weekly newsletter. The first one, not the insider. And I gave out PSG at plus 450, and I gave out Dortmund at 25-1 as an each way shout. We're going to talk about the top 4 in the betting and then see about some lively outsiders. Real Madrid now are the favourites. So this is changing. The favouritism seems to be flip-flopping between Real Madrid and PSG. Now, I know you're quite strong on Real Madrid, Nathan, here for this tournament. I was going to ask either of you, are they justifiable favourites? They probably are in your eyes, yeah?
I think so. They've drifted out a little bit because there's been so much money in for PSG. I think PSG can't be touched at the price now, and I think they've almost doubled the price 10, 12 days ago. it's obvious as to why money has come for PSG. But I feel as though the value now is with Real Madrid. PSG don't have Dembele. He's going to be out for 2 or 3 weeks. There's a few question marks around a couple of other key players within the squad. So, yeah, look, Xabi Alonso has come in. I think that's a huge win for them. They battled hard to get Trent in before, lots of controversy in the build-up to the tournament. I think there's just a lot to like about them. I think it'll just be a huge surprise if it's a team outside of that top 4 who wins it. So a really lazy first pick for me, which I don't want to talk about too much. I think Real Madrid are a nice price because they've drifted because of PSG shortening. I think PSG are just a tiny bit short now because of that Dembele news.
Do you know what? Real Madrid are an interesting one for me because I feel they've had quite a turbulent season. New manager now with Xabi Alonso, who takes charge of this tournament. I mean, this is weird in itself. You know, normally a manager would take charge at the beginning of a new season. Trent has come in and will be, be playing at the Club World Cup. That is a bit of a boost for them. But Real Madrid, for me, were quite favourable this season. I think you'd be. I do expect them to go deep. I have predicted them certainly for the top 4. I think, but I wouldn't be backing them myself at plus 400, but the official pick from you there, Nathan. Where do you see Real Madrid at this stage, Lewis?
Yeah, I want to actually get against Real Madrid here. Sorry to disagree with Nathan straight away, but I don't think this will be high on their priority list for Xabi Alonso. I think this is a really awkward time for him to be taking this job with such a big tournament on this tournament coming at probably a wrong time for him to wanting to get his feet under the table, I suppose. But I think the 2 big factors that aren't really being showcased here enough in the way the teams are being priced revolve around player freshness and teams being able to play energy-saving football in these conditions. So basically, the teams I want to back in the outright are the ones that aren't really knackered from the previous season and the ones that are really good at keeping possession. We've got to talk about the temperature, haven't we, in America? I think it's going to be a pretty scorching conditions to play in. So I think you want to make the opposition do the running, I think, and you want to keep the ball. And this is where I'm a little bit against PSG, to be honest. I mean, I've been with PSG all season in the Champions League and absolutely love everything they're about. But I think it's easy to look past them here now the price has gone. I think if you want it plus 800, then absolutely fantastic. I think you're in a great spot. But I don't think the conditions are going to suit this PSG team playing in America because they're full of energy and dynamism, this Luis Enrique's team, aren't they? And they're a really good pressing team. Their PPDA metric of 8.3 is a real high one. And that's a metric which sort of measures how many opposition passes are allowed outside the pressing team's own defensive third. So it's basically an indicator of how hard a team presses. And they are up there with the teams in Europe. And their high turnover percentage is high as well. They like to get in the faces of teams and press hard up the pitch. And I don't think that's going to suit in these conditions, especially when we get to the knockout stages and there's been more minutes in the legs and stuff. So want to get against them in the market. But then I also want to get against Real Madrid just on this workload angle, because I think this is the workload that these players have had to go through since last summer. I don't think has been put into the betting here with this Real Madrid price, because I think there's an edge to exploit here with taking on teams with the most minutes in their legs from the past 12 months, because I think they're going to be a big disadvantage here. And I think this price is just based on the Real Madrid price is based on the reputation of the football club and the brand and the status, rather than this team actually suited to winning this tournament. Because since the start of May 2024, Real Madrid's players have played 69,509 minutes of football. That's the most of any European team in this competition. And that's over 6,000 minutes more than PSG, who come in second in that table. So there's a lot more minutes in the Real Madrid legs here. And I just think they might be on the verge of burnout here, Madrid. And Xabi Alonso's got to be quite careful here that he has to think about next season as well, I think, and getting his messages across early for his style of football. I think it's going to be very, very difficult for him to be able to get a tune out of this team who, as I said, I think they might be on the verge of burnout here. And I don't want to go anywhere near them at that price, to be honest, Steve. So I definitely want to back a team who have got minutes in their legs, a bit fresher, and also ones that can play the conditions a bit more smart maybe than other teams by keeping the ball and knackering teams out in possession. So they're the two things I've sort of factored into my outright views on the tournament.
So Real Madrid and PSG are a fade for you. I mean, for me, PSG are not a fade. I am on them at 8-1. I mentioned that on several live shows before. I think at halftime on the live Champions League final, I said get on them now to win the Club World Cup. And for me, plus 450 is the base price. I wouldn't go below that myself. I think plus 450, I'm fine with that. We must consider the draw, of course, in the Club World Cup. There's 8 groups here. The winner, we know the route to the final. If you win in your group, you can finish second in your group. There's no lucky third place teams here, unless there's disqualifications. Who knows? I've got to look at the. I mean, I've got it as Real Madrid PSG semi-final. Actually, that's my workings out. I just think PSG are the best team in Europe right now, which means they're the best team in the world. They're on an absolute high. I'm a little bit, maybe a slight concern that they've achieved the goal they wanted. They won the Champions League. They've maybe climbed that mountain a little bit, but I just think they're on a roll. And Byron, I think, put it in chat. You can't see beyond them. That's kind of how I see it as well. Nathan, what odds would you want to back PSG in the futures market to win this competition? How do you see them going here?
I'm similar to you, and it sounds greedy because I was on them a couple of weeks ago around that 7-1, 8-1 price. I think now, because I'm seeing it at half of that, it's just not appealing at the moment. The fact that they aren't a comfortable each way swing to the likes of Real Madrid has shifted my mindset there. But nice and simple, I'm the same as you. I think they're the best team heading into this competition. Young players throughout the team. Dembele is the only reason why I'd probably want a bigger price, because he's not going to be there for the first 2 or 3 weeks. So very much in the same camp as you. I think it's a nice, easy prediction for PSG to make it far. Anyone in that top 4 is going to win it, and it'll be a huge shock if it's anyone else.
There's a question here about in terms of the motivation of a squad's going to care. There's over $250 million in prize money for this tournament. Now, club owners and all that are going to be telling the players this. I think the winners get over £100 million. Something along those lines as well. And this is, money that can put into the transfer kitty and everything like that. So I personally am working under the proviso that the players are going to be up for it. Some will be up for it more than others. Of course they will. But I'm not really at this stage factoring in the motivation point of view. Do put your best bets in chat. We're going to go through all the groups as well. But just at the top of the market here, I mean, Lewis, you're fading PSG and Real Madrid. But a team that you really like here, official bet for you, Manchester City. A trophyless campaign so far, but they're plus 550 to win the Club World Cup. I don't think too many will be that high on Pep Guardiola's team. So it's almost typical Lewis Jones, actually, isn't it, based on what I've known from you this season. Give us your reasoning for Manchester City here at plus 550 to win the Club World Cup.
Yeah, I suppose in betting, it's all like, you've got to know when to jump off trains, haven't you, and jump back on again. And I've definitely jumped off the Man City train at a good time midway through last season and managed to lock in some nice profit that set me well for the remainder of the campaign. But I think it's time to jump back on the Man City train, actually. And I think this just might be a bit of a perfect storm for them, this tournament. And they're obviously, you might mention the motivation factor. I think they're very much motivated to go to head to America and put on a show just to remind people of how strong this team can be. I mean, they've got all their business done already, haven't they? Before the tournament started, bringing in Reinders and Ray and Cherky and Ryan Aït-Nouri, they're all going to be there in the US, and it's the start of the Guardiola rebuild, isn't it? And I think the reason I want to get with them here, because they actually finished the Premier League season actually a lot stronger than people think. I think because they lost 3 of their last 21 games in the Premier League, and really liked the defensive axis, the axis that Ruben Diaz and Gvardiol provided at centre-back. And their expected goals against numbers were stacking up very nicely towards the end of the last season. A very hard team to create big chances against. And in their last 14 Premier League games, only conceded 9 goals and kept 8 clean sheets. And that's with that back 2 of Diaz and Gvardiol at the heart of it. So I really like the sort of the momentum they've got coming into this tournament now with the new signings and the fact everyone seems to be fit and firing now, especially that man is back, isn't he? Rodri, he's going to be fit for this, I think. And I think they're going to try and get minutes into him from an early part of this tournament, because you can't not factor in the with and without stats when you're talking about Rodri and Manchester City, because with him, they are an incredibly more confident team to put your money on, without a doubt. The win percentage drops under him. So when he's not playing, 50% win percentage. When he's playing, 75%. Points per game goes from 2.5 when he is playing, 1.7 without. So this is now over a sample size of 100 games. So such a reliable sample size, and that's such a 25% difference in win ratio when he plays. I think he's going to come back fit and firing. I think they won't have rushed him back. 8 months out, he's a very fit guy. I think he's going to come back in and be ready to go. And the reports are suggesting they are ready to unleash him and play a lot of minutes, give him a lot of minutes at this tournament. And with him back in that team, and if Pep Guardiola plays the way that he normally plays in the Champions League in these big games, keeping the ball, strangling the life out of teams with possession in these conditions, I think they're going to go very, very close to going all the way here. And I think, at the prices at the moment, I don't think that Man City price has factored in this Rodri factor and also the momentum and the positivity of the new signing. So I'm happy to take a swing at Man City, Steve, which I didn't even say once last season, I don't think. So we're definitely back on the Man City train.
Yeah, I can't remember you ever getting on them. Not on any of our shows anyway. One thing I do like about them is the draw they've got. They've got a very straightforward group. And to be honest with you, I don't really see them losing until the semi-final. My problem with Manchester City is I just think they got found out this season against any really good side in Europe or even in the Premier League, really. You make a good point about Rodri coming back. He's really important. What sort of condition will he be in? We'll have to wait and see, won't we? Nathan, where are you on the Manchester City train? Do we get on it or do we stay off it?
We stay off it. Lewis put up a good argument there, but I think the main thing to touch on there is all about Rodri, right? What condition is he in? I think they have they're on the more favourable side. I'd rather back a team on the other side of the group stage at the moment. But they're going to bump into Real Madrid. And if I'm tipping up Real Madrid to do well in this competition, then I think they're going to be able to beat Man City comfortably as they did in the Champions League this season. So I understand Lewis's point. Not entirely convinced that the whole transitional period is in full force just yet. I think they still need a bit more time. So an easy group, yes, but later down the line in the competition, would I back them at that particular price? Probably not.
Just 2% of the futures tickets are on Manchester City. There's some real surprises here, actually. No one will ever guess the top team in terms of percentage of futures tickets on the Bet River Sportsbook to win this. PSG, the third most back, by the way, 11.9%. Just looking at the top of the market here, again, we've got the likes of Bayern plus 650, Chelsea plus 1100. We'll talk about them soon when we're doing the group stage. But in terms of someone at a bigger price, I mean, I touched on them there in the newsletter pick, but Dortmund at 25-1. I know they interest you, Nathan, for an outsider. What do you like about them in terms of is it the draw? Is it the group of players? Is it the price or everything?
It's a little bit of everything. I think the price is huge going into it, really. I know I'm just trying to look at a team away from the top four, but as Lewis said, Man City were a side which gained momentum last season. Well, Dortmund won their last 6 games in style, scoring for fun to get Champions League. So they'll be in high spirits. And if we look at their group, I mean, it's a very weak group with Sundowns, Fluminense, Ulsan. They may avoid Inter Milan in the next round, so they get an easier step. So yes, they are going to bump into either Real Madrid or Man City along the way, but that's a lot further and deeper into the competition when it gets a little bit more interesting. And we've already spoken about the prize pot and how much money is at stake. So to get 25-1 for a team who have a comfortable route through to at least the quarterfinals on the opposite side of the draw, where you won't be facing Bayern, PSG, etc., or the better Brazilian teams in my eyes, which we'll get into later on in the podcast. But for me, I think 25-1 is a big price, and I think you could squeeze that into definitely a last 8 spot.
I agree. I've got them being knocked out by Real Madrid in the quarterfinals, but that would be a match where I wouldn't be shocked if Dortmund actually sprung a surprise. So I think at 25-1, they're well worth a go on the certainly the each way angle as well. Lewis, if I gave you a free $50 bet and you had to take someone at 25-1 or bigger, who would you place your money on?
Yeah, Dortmund. Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Especially the route that they've got to the last 8. And if they do meet Real Madrid, who, as I've mentioned, absolutely flagging in terms of their workload, bit of momentum behind Dortmund, I wouldn't be surprised if they give them a good game in that situation. But yeah, the great case there made for Dortmund. That'd be where I'll be looking for the outsiders. I mean, 16 of the last 17 winners of this Club World Cup, not in this format, but the traditional format, have come from Europe, haven't they? So, and it's minus 2,000 that a European team wins this tournament. So it's an implied probability of 96%. So you're almost ruling how many of the field out there, at least sort of 20, 22, 25 teams out there with that stat, which I think has got so much weight behind it. So I don't think you really need to be looking anywhere apart from the European teams, but maybe Nathan's going to tell us otherwise. Who knows? But it's just from my perspective, it looks like the better, the bigger prices would be Dortmund, I think, Steve.
Effie Brilovsky says all of the 50-1 teams are almost a gift to bet on to win the tournament. That's an interesting view, Effie. I wouldn't personally go along with that, but each to their own. He is expecting the European teams to treat these games as a friendly. Again, this is why it's an interesting tournament. There's a lot of sort of differences of opinions going on. Let's move to the top scorer odds. By the way, if you want to back teams in the top 2 market, the top 4 market, or the top 8 market, Bet Rivers are offering that as well. For example, Dortmund there minus 112 to finish in the top 8, PSG plus 125 to finish in the top 4, and so on and so forth. So you can, you don't have to bet just on the straight winner. There's different markets you can get on. Top goal scorer then. Mbappe plus 450 favourite, Haaland plus 550, and Harry Kane plus 700. Dembele is a 10-1 shot. I have to say, I think the 3 favourites are deserving favourites. I hate to be boring here, but I do think the winner of this top scorer award will be in one of the top 3 in the market. I mean, the one for me is Harry Kane plus 700. I think we'll talk about their group in a minute. They're playing an amateur team, Auckland. He could potentially fill his boots there. Kane just scores goals for fun. What was it, 30-odd goals in all competitions this season? So he would be my personal pick for top scorer here. And I also like the Harry Kane over 4.5 goals in the competition market, plus 110. He's just a sort of player who'll pick up a hat-trick somewhere, and then you just need him to chip away with a couple more goals. And Bayern probably will reach at least the quarterfinals by default. Anyway, in terms of the top scorer, I mean, it goes hand in hand for you here, Lewis. Erling Haaland plus 550. Hard to argue with him. Again, City probably should go deep, some soft opponents. And he missed quite a bit of the season as well, so he should be quite fresh.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I think I don't need to say any more, Steve. Thanks for painting the picture for me there. Brilliant. I think this is going to turn into a bit of a Champions League vibe about it, this tournament, especially towards the knockout stages. So why would you want to look anywhere else from the guy that just absolutely scores goals for fun in that competition? I mean, no one scores goals like Haaland does in the Champions League. He scored 49 goals in 48 Champions League matches. That's a goal every 79 minutes he scored in that competition. And so among all players to have scored 15 or more goals in the Champions League, Haaland has the best per minutes ratio of any player to ever played in that competition. And we can get plus 550 here on him being the top goal scorer. And yes, he's had a quiet season, been full of stop-start with injuries, but he seems quite fit and ready to go now. No niggles, I don't think, from what we've heard from the camp. So, and I think the key thing here for Haaland in terms of motivation, he's never played at a major tournament, has he? So the fact he gets to showcase his skills now at a summer event, which is going to be taken seriously and watched by everyone around the world, I think he's going to be his motivation is going to be really high here to light this tournament up and make a bit of a statement to show the world what a machine and what a great goal scorer he is. So, yeah, if I'm thinking Man City are going to have a good tournament, then that 550 plus 550 for Haaland to be the top goal scorer, it just follows alongside really nicely. And I think there's enough there in the price to get involved. And they haven't got the easiest group. They haven't got a Harry Kane Bayern Munich group with the likes of Auckland in, but this is a guy that just scores goals against any opposition. And to get a price like this on a player like him, I don't think it comes around too often. So I have to get involved with Haaland at that price.
Just a player that you're going to fade, though. Jude Bellingham here. He's got a goal line set with Bet Rivers over under 1.5 goals. Byron put in chat that more chance of Bellingham getting more red cards than goals. This is an under bet for you, Lewis. What's your angle here?
Yeah, Bet Rivers offering these markets. I really like getting involved in these under-over lines. And I always think, as punters, we really should be concentrating on taking advantage of the value in the unders line, because it's a bet that no one really wants to back, to be honest. It's not an exciting thing to follow, is it, when you're hoping something doesn't happen? But I think Jude Bellingham under 1.5 goals in the tournament at even money, I think that's too big. And I think we do have to take advantage of that. He's only scored 1 goal in his last 14 appearances for Real Madrid. So there's a starting point. He's only scored 12 goals in 44 appearances for Real Madrid last season. And I just think he looks like a player that's absolutely running on empty. I know I mentioned the minutes that the Real Madrid players have played since last May, and this is including the performances for the national team as well, obviously last summer with the European Championships. Bellingham has played 6,000 minutes since the start of last May for club and country. So that's 66 games he's played in 13 months without a break. And obviously we don't know how Alonso's going to use him either. So could play him a little bit deeper as well than he usually plays in the advanced role. And just being the smart guy that Alonso is, it wouldn't surprise me if he actually gave him a bit of a rest over this tournament, considering the amount of minutes that he's played in the last sort of 13 months. And if he doesn't play all the games, then that under 1.5 goals line anyway looks really attractive to me there. So, I think there's lots and lots of evidence here to suggest that goal line for Bellingham is wrong, because the fact there could be a case that he doesn't actually play that many games, and the fact that he's also not in great form either, and he's absolutely knackered, Steve. So I think I'd rather back the underline there definitely than the over for Bellingham. And if he scores 1 goal in the tournament, we still cop a return. So I'm happy to play that line. I think it's a really nice value play.
Nathan, you're going for a couple of bigger prices here in the top goal scorer market. Tell us who you like. There's a couple of players.
Yeah, if I'm sticking with Dortmund as that outside swing, I really like Sergio Guirassy. I think, I don't need to tell you about what he did in the Champions League. 34 goals in 44 games last season. And again, looking at their group, I think lots of people are focusing on Auckland, which makes a lot of sense, which I'll get to in a minute. But again, Fluminense, Ulsan, Sundowns, it's by far the easiest group. Dortmund will want to get that wrapped up in style within the first couple of games. And then they may play a really chaotic game against River, Monterrey, maybe Inter. They may avoid them in the next round. So you're just adding extra layers where he's on penalties as well. His form at the end of last season, which was only 4 or 5 weeks ago now, was incredible. The hat-trick against Barcelona as well, just how powerful he is. The 3 teams they have in that group are incredibly weak compared to Dortmund, and I think that's where he can take advantage. So yeah, that's my first pick. The second one is a little bit more obvious in terms of Pavlidis for Benfica at a huge 50-1. The main reason why I like him, you can easily say, Harry Kane, because he's going to score a hatful of goals against Auckland. He may or may not start because that's Bayern's first game, just come to the US a day or 2 before this particular match. So is Kane going to start? Are they going to pull him off early? Yes, Bayern should score a hatful of goals against them, but Benfica will definitely, we'll get onto the Boca team in a minute, but Benfica capable of tearing Boca apart. Obviously should score a hatful against Auckland. Goal difference will be really, really key in this group to who finishes top. And then that last game against Bayern, both teams are going to be going hell for leather against each other. So you want to be backing the strikers in that particular market. Benfica are a shoo-in to get into the knockout stage. Where they progress from there, I'm not 100% sure. But there's 2 games where he could really fill his boots if he starts and plays the whole 90 minutes. So at 50-1 for an each-way swing, I think it's a really big price.
Yeah, 50-1 for Pavlidis and 12-1 on Guirassy there. We promised that we would go into the groups, and here we go. A, B, C, and D there. We'll start with Group A. I actually asked the boys for a 1, 2, 3, 4 predicted order, and all of us have actually predicted Palmeiras to win this group. So, Nathan, South American soccer expert, are Palmeiras a bet here to win this group at plus 175, do you think? Are they good enough to beat the likes of Porto and Inter Miami?
Absolutely. Really like the look of this. I think on paper, it looks a tricky group, but if we break down the teams, I think Inter Miami could finish bottom of this group. My only reservation around that is potentially leniency when it comes to referees within these games. Our Ahly, as we saw in the recent Intercontinental Cup, weren't that particularly strong against Pachuca, and we'll touch on probably how weak they are later on in the group, which gives you a bit of a two-horse race between Porto and Palmeiras. Lots coming out of the Porto camp, which has been a little bit concerning. Even the striker William Gomez turned around and said that Palmeiras have an advantage because Abel Ferreira knows in Portuguese football inside out, which he does. And Palmeiras have thrown an awful lot of money at their squad in the off-season. Last season was the first time Abel Ferreira hadn't won a trophy at Palmeiras since his arrival in 2021. And how did they react? Well, they broke the Brazilian transfer record, bringing in Facundo Torres from Orlando. They brought in Vitor Roque from Barcelona. They spent big money and brought in some huge names. And that squad is so well put together. But Abel Ferreira is a winner. He knows how to win ugly. If we look at previous Copa Libertadores editions in the group stage, they will score for fun, but can often work their way through to the semis or final by winning games 1-0. He knows how to shut up shop. He's brought in an incredible centre midfielder, Emiliano Martinez, alongside Richard Rios in the middle, which has balanced them out. And interestingly, Abel Ferreira said, we're not a team who excels in one area. In particular, we do everything very, very good. Where the noise out of the Porto camp, Villas Boas, who's the president there, said we should be achieving the first knockout stage, which isn't particularly positive. So, and I haven't even mentioned Esteval, who Esteval is probably going to be, everyone who's a Premier League fan, especially Chelsea fans, are going to be watching him this tournament, and he's a wonderful, wonderful player. So the attacking players Palmeiras have are sensational, but defensively, I was a bit worried about them at the start of the season, but they've proven me wrong. And yes, they've lost 1 or 2 games heading into this tournament, but against probably the best teams in Brazil, bar Palmeiras. And maybe that's given Abel Ferreira something to think about. But I think there's a lot more weaknesses to the other 3 teams, which gives Palmeiras an opening here.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a bet to win the group at plus 175. Porto, I mean, for me, they're a bit of a fade, and you're even going further here, Lewis. You're going to back Porto not to qualify from this group. What are your concerns about them here?
Yeah, it's probably the best bet that I'm putting up here, actually. Porto not to qualify at plus 140. And my confidence has only been heightened here by the fact that Nathan has just raved about Palmeiras here, which is great news for this Porto bet, I think, because I think this is a case of a team being priced up on name and being from Europe rather than their actual ability and what they've been showing recently, because they're a terrible season, Porto. 3rd in the Portuguese league. They're terrible in the Europa League campaign, getting knocked out to Roma. And what really worries me about this team is their form against sort of similarly ranked teams to them. So against the better teams, because against the dross in the Portuguese league are absolutely fine. They've got a good record, but when they're playing a not even half decent, a good team, their form is absolutely horrendous. So I collated their results against Sporting, Braga, Benfica, and their results in the Europa League last season. It was played 16, won 3, drawn 5, lost 8. So, and if you collate those results just from November last year, it's 10 games without a win in terms against that level of opposition. So losing 7 of those, and I think we can sort of include Palmeiras in that team. I think if Palmeiras should be able to compete with the 3rd best team in Portugal, the way that Nathan's been talking about them, has only, as I say, further heightened my confidence behind them. They just seem like a really well drilled, defensively focused team that don't really concede many goals. And they've lost just 1 of their last 21 away games as well, winning 17. And I think that's a really good stat is relevant here because of the fact this is obviously a tournament played away from home. So yeah, I think they'll be able to beat Porto in that game. And you've got the Inter Miami factor as well. Yes, Lionel Messi. We've got to talk about him, haven't we? I mean, any team with Lionel Messi, and can you call him a surprise package, really?
Well, do you know what?
Lionel Messi in there, but
I've actually, I'm predicting Inter Miami to finish bottom of this group, and I know Nathan is as well. I've gone Palmeiras, Al Ahly, Porto, and Inter Miami. Nathan's gone Palmeiras, Porto, Al Ahly, and Inter Miami. You got Inter Miami in 2nd, Lewis. Porto 3rd, Al Ahly in 4th. Now, my only concern with Inter Miami is that I'm a cynical fella, and they probably will want Messi to go as deep into the tournament as possible. So I do believe Inter Miami will get some maybe decisions go their way. But I've watched a fair bit of them. I think they're a very old squad. I don't really think they're that great. So that's, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not really bothered where they finish, as long as it's not top. But I think
my view is really is the strong view comes from the Porto side here, and how I want to just absolutely fade them. So the fact that Inter Miami have got home advantage as well, that's also a thing to factor into the case. And they're just a very sort of dangerous team that could be capable of anything. I mean, I think they last 9 matches in all competitions have averaged 5.3 goals. So going to be probably quite a good watch to tune in to watch Inter Miami play. Obviously, with Messi, and any time you can tune in to watch this guy play, you should. And I just think that Messi factor in a big tournament like this, I don't think you can underplay it. So there's enough there for me to be against Porto in this group, I think. And plus 140 for them not to qualify, I think that's a big price. And I'm even more excited about it now, thanks to Nathan bigging up Palmeiras. So that's good news. And I'd encourage anyone to jump on that price.
Nathan, you're going to actually bet on Palmeiras' Pacific elimination phase. Round of 16 for you here at plus 175. Talk us through that one. And also the African team, Ahly. Could they be a little bit of a surprise, do you think?
Yeah, first of all, I just think, well, look, Palmeiras are heavily, really short price to qualify from the group. And just out of the way the groups have lined up, they're either going to bump into PSG or Atletico Madrid in the next round. And although Palmeiras are one of the better teams in Brazil, they're bumping into 2 giants of the European game. And I think for the price, I would rather side with that. So I think that's where they'll fall out, just because of an unkind draw. So it adds extra value rather than just hoping that they finish in the top 2 of still a quite complicated group. I know I was saying the praises of Palmeiras there. I'm not backing up at all, but I think there's going to be a lot of. This is a difficult group. I think Inter Miami will get a few decisions here, and then Ahly are a little bit unknown quantity as well. I think they'll definitely serve up against Inter Miami. There's loads of unknowns with them. They've just brought in a new head coach, but they've signed 2 or 3 key players specifically targeting this tournament. Trezeguet, Premier League and Aston Villa fans will know all about him. It's a big signing for them. They're powerful, they're pacey. I think the fact that there's only 25,000 at the moment in attendance for that home, quote unquote, home game. I know Lewis spoke about that host advantage, but I don't know if there will be one really for Inter Miami versus Ahly. And I think they'll get at them. And I think they'll be surprised. Javier Mascherano hasn't done a good job. A few key heads in that team aren't convinced. Apparently Messi is one of those as well. So I know Lewis pointed towards the amount of goals in their games, but they're not scoring all those. They're shipping plenty as well. So, yeah, I think if it was on a neutral ground and there wasn't that Messi bias, Inter Miami to finish bottom of that group is also pretty decent.
Okay, we're going to skim through a couple of groups here. Group B: PSG, Atletico Madrid, Botafogo, Seattle Sounders. We all agree in the order here, and we agree with the betting. PSG to win it, Atletico Madrid second, Botafogo third, and Seattle Sounders fourth. Just a quick one on Botafogo here, Nathan. How good are they compared to these other South American teams? It's a really tough group for them to get beyond the likes of PSG and Atletico, isn't it?
Yeah, because if they were in Palmeiras' shoes and they're in Group A, I'd probably say that they could qualify in the top 2. So a really unfortunate draw. I think a lot of people will be excited to see them because they won the Brazilian title last season and Libertadores for the first time ever in their history. But lots has changed since then. New manager, Luis Enrique and Thiago Almada have left, so key players. But the new manager, Renato Paiva, he's got them ticking along nicely in recent weeks, and they are a really good attacking unit. But really poor on their travels. And now the opening game against Seattle, both teams are going to be at each other, aren't they, really? Because this is their only chance really to give them an opportunity. But it's at Seattle's home ground. So Botafogo could struggle, and there's key players already lined up. A trio are going to Nottingham Forest in a couple of weeks. So will they want to get injured? Probably not. So an unfortunate draw. If they're in Group A, I'd fancy them to get through.
And Group C here, we've got the same order as well. We're going Bayern Munich, Benfica, Boca Juniors, and Auckland City. I suppose the 2 more interesting factors here are Boca Juniors and Auckland City. We'll talk about Auckland in a minute, but Boca Juniors, Nathan, I've heard a few interesting sort of things said about them heading into the tournament, but they don't know whether they're here or there, really. They could be an ultimate surprise package, or they could be awful. Give us the lowdown on Boca Juniors, because they're a big name.
They're a huge name and they're a car crash at the moment. They're heading to this tournament and they could be heavily embarrassed by the two European sides. Where do we start with them? They're a really aging side in terms of who they actually have. And I think people will go, oh, Boca Juniors, I really want to go and see them. And I'm sure they're a big team. They'll be able to compete. But if we go through their team in terms of ages, Luis Avincula, 35, Marcos Rojo, 35, Bataglia, who they got from Mineiro last season on a free, who stayed up on the last day of the season in Brazil, 33. And Herrera, the big glamour signing, injured all the time, 35. Edison Cavani, 38, scored 2 goals in 2025. Now, where it's been a bit of a car crash, it's an aging team, and I think the two European teams will just pull them apart. There's been this bias that Boca have sold out all 3 games, but they've been awful at La Bombonera this season as well at times. So crowd factor doesn't really sort of cut it for me either. They've just got a new manager in, Miguel Angel Russo, who's here for his 3rd stint. His previous 2 stints weren't too bad, but one was back in 2007. Football has moved on since then. There's just a huge rift between the team and the fans at the moment. The training ground has moved away, so there's no public access to anymore. So there's that loss between what sort of builds them as a community. It's no longer in La Boca. And the team has just fallen away, and there's just a lack of funding within there. They have actually... Saying that, they have actually spent quite a bit of money in the off season, but the big purchases haven't done anything. So they've leaned towards these aging players, and they just haven't performed well at all. So it's a shame, because I think more people now than ever will want to tune in to watch Boca. But this is not a good Boca team, and it hasn't been for 2 or 3 years now. And they're going to be embarrassed, unfortunately.
Lewis, Auckland City are they're an amateur team. They're actually not even, they're not a professional soccer team here. They're the biggest prize to win the entire tournament. It's going to be a big surprise if they're competitive. I've seen some talk of the likes of Bayern, Benfica could put genuinely double-digit scores past them. I guess the question I'm going to ask you is, how bad are they going to be? Is this the sort of team that you'll be looking to oppose, or, knowing you, Lewis, sometimes a little bit au contrarian, get on a big handicap?
No, absolutely not. Not with Auckland. It's all I've heard really across the socials, and people have been messaging me about various bets, etc. It's this Bayern Munich handicap on the first game. People are really quite confident that Auckland are going to get absolutely walloped here. And it's really interesting listening to Nathan about the other team in the group there. Who is it? Who's the other team in the group? Boca, of course, yeah. And that makes me think that if those two teams are the whipping boys, then the top goal scorer betting is really interesting for Bayern and Benfica, and obviously Nathan's put up the guy from Benfica to rack up a few, and that looks like a big price actually. So that's the way I would be sort of playing it. These strikers could be having an absolute field day against these defenses. So I wouldn't be surprised if Auckland finish bottom and not score a single goal. So yeah, it's should be a pretty bit of a cakewalk by the sounds of it for the two favourites in that group.
Yeah, we both agree with the order there. Group D, both Lewis and Nathan agree with the finishing order. They're going Chelsea to win the group, Flamengo second, LAFC third, and Tunis fourth, Espérance de Tunis. I think Flamengo are going to win this group. I'm putting Chelsea in second place. It's more of a little bit of a fade of Chelsea. I can't quite put my finger on it. I just don't believe they were that convincing in the back end of the season. They had great moments, don't get me wrong. But even that Conference League final, another day, Real Betis could have been a couple of goals up at half time. Chelsea did really well to turn it around. I'm interested to hear your Chelsea angle here, Lewis. A lot of people saying they really could do with getting a deep run for the money. Incredibly to say. But I just feel like in this group stage, I'd be surprised if they don't qualify. I'd be shocked. But I do wonder if maybe they could be vulnerable to Flamengo, especially if that match ended maybe a draw.
Yeah, I was I'm sort of the same thinking as you, Steve, regarding Chelsea, but maybe this was sort of like 3, 4, 5 weeks ago. I was on that feel with Chelsea towards the end of the season, and then they have sort of gone a long way to convince me that they can get results when the chips are down. I think they did that towards the end of the season in the Europa League final, Conference League final. Didn't play overly well, but got the job done. Didn't play very well away at Forest, got the job done. And Maresca's got that to point to. So I don't have any fears for them here in this group. I think they'll be fine. Their motivation will be high. They've got their signing done as well early. That their big centre forward that they wanted to bring in, Liam Delap. It's a good signing. I think he's going to have an exciting career at Chelsea. Interesting to see how he fits into the system. He's a wrecking ball of a player, and I think he's going to cause carnage. And he's a good finisher as well when he gets in there. So I think he might, if he can hit the ground running, he might be able to score a few goals in this group stage. And I don't have any issues with Chelsea in the group, Steve. I sort of think I've overcome my issues with Chelsea in terms of their overall play, and I just think they're a team to probably respect now. We're looking forward to next season. I think they probably could challenge the top three in the betting next season. I think if they continue on this path. So yeah, no, I'm okay with Chelsea in this group. I think they'll take all the beating.
I'm not going to oppose them with my own money here. I'm not going to bet on Flamengo to win this group, plus 225, unless Nathan convinces me that Flamengo could potentially be a threat to them. I mean, we've all got Flamengo qualifying out of this group. How good are they? Could they possibly take down Chelsea?
No, I don't see it. But that doesn't mean they're a bad side. They've improved massively under ex-Chelsea and ex-Flamengo player Felipe Luis, who came in when Flamengo were once again a sinking ship. They seem to go through this cycle every season where they bring in a big-name manager who can't deal with the egos. But Luis, maybe because he played alongside most of them, was promoted from the under-20 squad where he did a fantastic job for an interim period, but he did so well. Flamengo actually gave him the job, and he's managed to get all these players with huge egos playing for him and buying into this new sort of creative style of play. Defensively, they're very, very solid. Head to the tournament, having only conceded 4 goals in the league after 11 matches. All eyes will be on the striker Pedro, who scored 30 plus goals last season, but he tore his ACL for a second time and he's still finding his feet. But the player to keep an eye on is Georgian de Arrasqueta, the Uruguayan number 10, who's playing in a higher role behind Pedro this season. Scored 9 in 9 in his new position and scored an absolute screamer for Uruguay against Venezuela in the South American World Cup qualifiers, which have just happened. So I think their defense is solid, one of the best in Brazil for sure, and I think that they will be a really hard unit to break down. But where the battle is probably going to be won in the middle against Chelsea, I would probably favour the English side. And the fact that Gerson, who is probably their best midfielder, has been linked heavily with Zenit, and there's lots of back and forth, and it's getting a little bit ugly at the moment. Not sure exactly what's going to be happening there, but I just don't think they have enough quality in the middle of the park with their preferred 4-3-3 high press formation. I think Chelsea can pick them off, but comfortably second choice in this group for sure.
Group E is probably one of the most interesting discussions we're going to have on this show. Inter Milan are the minus 250 favourites. I can reveal Inter Milan are the most popular bet in terms of the futures to win the tournament at 14-1. Nearly 34% of the tickets are on Inter Milan with the BetRivers Sportsbook. I want absolutely nothing to do with that myself. I just think they're a bit of a fade in this tournament. River Plate plus 225 to win the group. And then we've got Aurora Red Diamonds and Monterrey, Mexican side as well here. A change of manager for Inter Milan. Christian Kivu's come in. Anyone who followed me this season when Kivu came in at Parma, I was just on the unders every day of the week. This is a manager who loves defense, loves structure, organization. I think next season we're going to see Inter win a lot of matches 1-0 and 2-0, traditional Italian way. But this tournament, it might just come a bit too soon. They've had a really grueling campaign, gut-wrenching defeat in the Champions League final. I don't personally really want anything to do with them at all. Lewis, you're going to actually bet on River Plate to win this group. We'll hear Nathan's thoughts on River Plate soon, but I'm guessing you're kind of in the same camp as me with Inter. It just feels like an obvious fade spot, surely. Yeah,
absolutely. It's the word you used there summed up perfect. Grueling. It was one of those seasons for Inter, wasn't it? A long, hard season. Changing the manager, it's a big downgrade, I think, isn't it? Getting rid of Inzaghi and bringing in Christian Chivu. You're very, very organised. Gets teams very organised, but would have my doubts about him being able to match what Inzaghi's done. Yeah, I don't really like Inter at all in this competition. Really, we're just going back to these minutes played data, which I'm really keen on analysing ahead of the tournament. And since March, their players have played 21,119 minutes, which is the most of any team in the competition since March. And they came out the other side potless, didn't they? With no trophyless. So it's a very taxing end to the season, and I think there's going to be a hangover. I think that potentially here, I know a new manager could come in and revitalise everyone, but it's an aging squad anyway, isn't it? With lots of players on their way out, and they look legless in the Champions League final in that second half against PSG. They have to obviously they're not going to be facing the likes of PSG here in the group. So really interested to hear Nathan's views on River Plate, because obviously they were the second favourites in this market, and they were the obvious ones to take on Inter Milan with. So I'd be really interested to hear if River Plate can put it up to Inter in the group. What do you think, Nathan?
I think there's a huge misprice here between I think you rather Red Diamonds are the weak links. I think we can automatically rule them out, but I think there's such a huge price difference between Monterrey and River Plate. And with you guys not keen on Inter, I actually think Monterrey are the team who can slip in, and maybe River are the team that miss out, which may surprise people. And I don't think they're anywhere in a position that Boca are in, but they've just been very unconvincing over the whole season. They've picked up results fairly well over the last 4 or 5 weeks, but against similar teams to them, or teams where it could be a bit of a flip of the coin, they really struggle to break teams down, but are vulnerable defensively at times. They've got a centre-back, 33-year-old Herman Pizzella. I've got a few stats on him here, but I can just say he's a complete liability. River seems to have to work so hard to get in front, and then they make 1 or 2 mistakes, and all of a sudden it's level. They're throwing a game. They didn't win the Argentine title again, knocked out in the quarterfinals on penalties, but relied on a late penalty to even get them to extra time at El Monumental, so at home in front of 85,000 people. And it's just been a bit of a theme. It's a complicated group, but Gallardo, who's their most successful manager of all time, has come back for a second stint. Is it working out? It's slow progress. I think people thought it was going to come in and dominate, but when River Plate have played teams outside of Argentina, like I'm trying to compare Monterrey to maybe not exactly the same level as a Brazilian team, but they reached the Libertadores semi-final last year and got hammered 3-0 against Atletico Mineiro, who stayed up on the last day of the season in the Brazilian league. I think the gap between the Monterrey price and Rivers is far too big. And Monterrey have heavily invested, yes, in sort of older players themselves. The most obvious, Sergio Ramos, but they brought in Sergio Canales, who scored 17 goals and 12 assists in 39 games in the Mexican League. Lucas Ocampos, Nelson Diosa. They've got Jesus Corona and Oliver Torres as well. So, and I've not even mentioned the main striker, Herman Berterame, who scored 20 and 38. Yes, they are chaotic, and they've got a new head coach heading into this as well. Would have been really interesting because their old coach is Di Michaelis, who River recently sacked to get Gallardo in. But I think they can take the game to River, and I think that's going to be a lot closer than what people think. So I can see why River's price is there, but similar to what we said with the European teams, is it their name which has made them a little bit closer to Inter, or that huge gap between the other two? I'm not entirely convinced. I just think Monterrey are chaotic, but that price should be a lot closer. And I'm just not convinced River can sort of deliver against similar level teams to them. But I will say they've got Franco Mastantuono, who's just signed for Real Madrid, and he's probably on the same level or same category as Esteval. He's an unbelievable football player. He controls River. Everything goes through him, but he's only 17. If he gets an injury, River are stuck without him, which just shows how good he is at the moment. So not saying I'm necessarily relying on an injury, but there's a lot. I think there's red flags for all 3 teams apart from Inter, if we're going to talk away from the European teams, but that gap's too big.
You're going to take Monterrey to qualify here, Nathan, aren't you? Plus 300. Lewis is going to be on River to win the group at plus 225. Do you know, after what you said there, Nathan, I might even have a little nibble on Monterrey to win this group at 20-1. I'm not convinced about Inter, especially just after that grueling period we've had. In terms of
plus 600 for them to be eliminated in the group stage there, Steve, for Inter. I think that's an interesting price now. I think if you really think they're going to blow out and their legs have completely gone after a really hard season, that might be the way to attack it at the bigger price rather than chancing your arm on a team to win the group. So I think that's probably an interesting angle to explore. And if you think they're going to blow out, plus 600 for them to be eliminated in the group stage, not the worst price I've seen, I don't think.
Predicted orders.
There has to be an upset along the way, right? Sorry,
Nathan, you are going
to
win the group. But you go Monterrey second, River third, Urawa fourth. We're all going Urawa fourth. I'm going River into Monterrey. Lewis is going River, Monterrey, Inter. It's a real mix of opinions. Put in the group what you think who's going to win Group E. Group F, there's a particular team I really want to touch on here, and it is Mamelodi Sundowns. Lewis, you've done a fair bit of research. They are the big dog in this group, 25-1. Dortmund are the favourites to win it. We've all got them to win this group. Lewis, you actually think Mamelodi Sundowns could be a potential surprise here, the South African champions?
Yeah, just the price play here, plus 500 for them to qualify through this group. And it's a strange situation because I've never actually watched this football team play, but having just done some research in terms of their history and the season that they've had, I think they're really overpriced here to go quite well in this group. I think they might be the best African side in the tournament. They're just used to winning. I mean, they've won the eight titles in a row now in South Africa, and it's the national team finished third actually in the recent Africa Cup of Nations, and that packed for the players that play for the Sundowns as well. So there just seems to be a bit of a growth of football in South Africa here that we might be able to jump on ahead of it peaking potentially ahead of the World Cup. And obviously just such a huge country anyway with so much sporting tradition. I've always thought that South Africa should be able to produce a really good national football team, and they've got the investment now through the guys that are invested in this Sundowns team to really sort of have a go and try and get the best out of the talent that's obviously in that part of the world. And they've already, the two teams that are from Africa in the competition, the other two, Ahly and
Casablanca.
Yeah, that's it. The Turkish side. They beat them both in their sort of Champions League run that they had earlier this season. So the form lines there suggest that they're a better side than those two. And I just think, I was reading about them, there's a very big sort of European influence behind the scenes with the sporting director and the way that the club is run. And it's very sort of data driven. They're very good at bringing in players, and it's a very sort of smart way of doing it, I think, trying to copy models from Europe. And I think the fact they're overpriced here to qualify, so their first game is against the Korean side here, Ulsan, and I think it's a very winnable fixture for them there because they're having a very poor season in the K-League, the Korean team, and I don't think there's nothing here for this well-organised, very tight unit of the Sundowns to fear in this game. Because if they start well and they win this first game, which is I think they're 17-10 plus 170 to do so. I really fancy them actually to come through that game. And then they've got the momentum behind them, and they can play against the other two teams in the group, Dortmund and Fluminense, and they're going to be in a good spot, I think. And I really think this winning mentality that they've got, and the fact they got all the way to their Champions League final, and only lost over two legs to the Egyptian side, the Pyramids. Really good side, I think, and underrated by the markets just because of where they play in South Africa. So I think that is the bet in this group without a doubt, and I'm really looking forward to watching them play actually, because I've done so much research on them. I'm really engaged by their story and everything over the past couple of days or so. So looking forward to watching them play, and I'm going to be invested in them, Steve. So I could be buying myself a Sundowns top if they do the business for me here. So I'm their new super fan. So yeah, hopefully they can get the job done, and this sort of growth in South African football can be on show the Club World Cup. So yeah, no, I'm willing to invest them to get out of this group.
I'm looking forward to seeing that Sundowns shirt behind you in your background, Lewis. By the way, Pyramids, what a great name that is for an Egyptian team. I've got to be honest with you. Ulsan HD are in this group. Their club kit got voted the worst in the entire tournament. It sounds like they might be one of the poorest teams in it. Fluminense, Nathan, what sort of side are we looking at here? Plus 200 to win the group, minus 400 for top two. Would you get involved in either of those?
I thought they were a shoo-in to follow Dortmund into the knockout stage, and the fact that Lewis just started this conversation there with, I've never seen Sundowns play a game, and then by the end of it, I was convinced that they were actually going to win the group. But I think Lewis is maybe onto something there, which I haven't really factored in. So Fluminense, really interesting one. They stayed up on the last. They could have been a Serie B side heading into this competition. They fell off a cliff last season and beat Palmeiras somehow to stay up last season. Changed the manager quickly, got rid of a really negative manager and brought in Renato Gaucho, he's revitalized them. I thought Fluminense were going to be candidates to get relegated in Brazil, and they're heading into this tournament sat in the top 5, top 6, and they haven't really invested because they haven't got the money. But fair play to them. They've lost some key players in the last 12 months or so. Cal Elias to Shakhtar Donetsk, Andre to Wolves probably being the most obvious one. But they've really got themselves together. They've got a star player on the right-hand side, Colombian winger John Arias, who's had multiple chances to leave and go to Europe, but he stayed incredibly loyal to Fluminense. Ganso, for the older people in the room, is a wonderful player at the age of 35 in the middle of the park. Thiago Silva, if we're going to add another 5 years on, 40-year-old centre-back, he's still been incredible for them. Yes, a few injuries here and there, but his leadership is just, I think it's priceless for them. So I think these Gauchos turn them into like a really hard team to beat, more confident going forward. They haven't really added anybody to their team, which is surprising why they've picked up so well. But they are an aging team. Pace is potentially lacking. So why I'm sort of now sitting on the fence is because of what Lewis beautifully said about Sundowns. Potentially they have a bit more pace and power to knock the ball around, but I think they meet in that third round in this particular group, which will make that really interesting. So Fluminense have massively picked up. I think teams like Botafogo will hate them because of the draw, because Fluminense have been given a gift, because if they were in other groups, they'd be pretty much embarrassed. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Interesting one there. Group G, we've got nothing in this group. Excuse me, we've all predicted the same order: Man City, Juventus, Al Ain, and Wydad Casablanca. Group H, the final futures bet from any of us. It's from you, Nathan. Here you go. Al Hilal to finish in the top 2. Real Madrid, the favourites to win it. I've actually got Red Bull Salzburg bottom of this group, personally. I think they're awful. I've watched a fair bit of them this season. There was one of the worst league campaigns they've ever had domestically. I think they're going to finish bottom. It's just a question for me, who's going to finish above them, whether it be Al Hilal or both teams could finish above them, but who's going to finish in the top 2? We've got a Mexican side, Pachuca, who, to be honest, I don't know enough about them really. But Al Hilal to finish in the top 2 here, Lucy, I think that's a good bet. Nathan, sorry.
Yes, I do. Obviously, they've got the new factor of the new manager, but if we actually look at their team, like their team, their starting 11, which has been in place for the last 12 months or so, has been really solid. Yes, they didn't win the league this year and they fell short in the Champions League, but they have 2 unbelievable strikers heading into this tournament. Yes, obviously I can talk about Mitrovic, who, if I've got my notes right, he's got 25 goals in 34 games, and he missed a huge part of the season. Marcus Leonardo, who stepped in, who was from Santos, moved to Benfica, got off a huge package in Saudi. He's been banging them in as well, 25 goals in 38 matches. But I've had to make notes because of the whole 11. I'm going to miss players, but they've got Ruben Neves, Milenkovic, Savic, both holding in the middle. The fullbacks, Renan Lodi and Cancelo, Malcolm Aldouasi as well. They're stacked with quality. They can be quite chaotic, but maybe that's why Inzaghi's come in to sort of steer them a bit more defensively. They have the players there. And as you just said, Salzburg were absolutely terrible. Pachuca, as most Mexican teams are, quite chaotic. They've got Rondon up top, who has still been a wonderful servant for them. And they've got John Kennedy as well, who we all thought, people close to South American football thought he was going to take off and move to Europe, but he's sort of revitalized his career in Mexico. So you've got 2 brilliant strikers for Pachuca, but behind them, maybe a little bit chaotic. But I think Salzburg could be, I agree with you. I think they could finish in definitely bottom of this group. I think they could be rabbits in the headlight, and Pachuca will just be completely at them. They'll be more excited about this competition than they are. And I think Al Hilal can join Real Madrid. So this could be one to potentially get on after that first game, because Al Hilal meet Real Madrid in the first round. if Real Madrid do put 3, 4, 5 past them, it could be a closer game. But if you're brave enough to hold out, that price could get a little bit bigger, especially if Salzburg or Pachuca pick up 3 points. Al-Hilal will be a really good price. So an in-play betting group tip as well to throw in the hat as well.
Duncan makes a very good point. How do RB Salzburg even qualify for this tournament? It is a big mystery. It must be said. Red Bulls do give you wings, but these are some sort of wings to get them into this tournament. I'm opposing them in every match that I can. I think they're awful. As I say, I'm going to follow you in with that one, Nathan, on Al-Hilal to finish in the top 2. And I might nibble on Pachuca as well. Any thoughts on Salzburg, Lewis? As a European
well,
side?
it just bewilders me that they're in the tournament. And say I'm not sure the reason behind it. They must have the coefficient or the ranking numbers there, because they're not even the top team in Austria, were they? Finished second in that league behind Sturm Graz this year. So very strange situation. Like Nathan's got a great case there for Al-Hilal. I think that in play, because you're right, that price will likely drift if they get beaten by Real Madrid. So yeah, maybe keep your powder dry and wait for the first game and then get involved. Like that angle.
We've got a 1 bet for the first match of the tournament. This is Ahly against Inter Miami. A couple of commenters said it's not the most exciting start to the tournament, but Inter Miami, Messi on the field. I think they'll get a few bums on seats. Inter Miami plus 116 favourites. Ahly are the dog here. I'm going to be quite tempted to bet against Inter Miami here, but I hate going against sort of my gut instinct in terms of like referees and stuff like that. You're not going to get involved in the money line, Nathan. You're going to go in the goals market, a good old-fashioned over.
Yeah, over 2.5 goals. It's landed in 9 of the last 10 into Miami. I can't remember what Lewis said in terms of the averages, but it was above 5 into Miami over maybe the last 10 games. They haven't kept a clean sheet in the last 10. They've conceded 2+ goals in half of those as well. I think defensively, they're in absolute shambles. It's very much give Messi the ball and hope for a bit of magic, which obviously he can produce, which will help. But Ahly will definitely get at them. And yes, this may not be the FIFA glamour tie people want, but I actually think this has potential to be goals-wise anyway. Maybe not quality all the time, but it could be a really good opener. So definitely one to worth staying up for, especially for a UK audience anyway.
Thanks very much for that one. And that will conclude this preview for the Sunday's matches. Someone was asking about Sunday matches. I will put a post on the Instagram account, because we went Instagram account about the games that day. So do get following that, and do follow it for the US Open content. Simon Holden will be doing that over the weekend as well. Sorry for anyone I couldn't mention on the comments today. We were trying to get through quickly here. So much to discuss today. And we have overrun. But thanks to Nathan, thanks to Lewis for this Club World Cup preview. Best of luck with all your bets. Hope you got you covered. If you're watching live or on demand, thanks very much. Like and subscribe. The Club World Cup's going to be covered on Betting Weekly Live throughout the whole tournament, right at the next 4 weeks. This is your best bet. For all these angles into the tournament, we'll have a guest on every single day. Nathan and Lewis are going to be on. So thanks again, guys. Really enjoyed that one.
Cheers, Steve.
Cheers, Steve. Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time on Betting Weekly Live.